Good morning from Yami BTV. Wishing you all well, sending plenty of love your way as usual, and hoping your day is going to go the best it possibly can. Now, first of all, we pay our respects to the family of the murdered 15-year-old schoolgirl down there in Croydon. How horrific that is, and that shows you the sign of the times we are now living in. A young girl could be on her way to school and over a bag, so they say, could lose her life. All too familiar now with the new generation for whatever many of us were back in the day, and whether we were lunatics or so-called gangsters or bad men or whatever. We seem to know what not to do, what was morally correct, and how for whatever the sense of belonging, wanting to be part of the life that we speak about so freely on Yami BTV. There seems to be a division of, you're just not allowed to do certain things. It goes against the written rule, and there's no rules really in that game now at all. It wasn't mostly the right set of rules anyway for us lot back in the day, but I'm sure you understand what I mean by this, because there was always bad apples, one-offs that, murdered women senselessly and raped and harmed children and something, but very few and far between, if you get what I mean. For now, the unnecessary violence that goes on our streets is absolutely horrendous, horrific, and victims, what we talk about this morning, of lost ones, loved ones, etc., etc., are the ones that are going to suffer the absolute most. Because since I've been out, I realised the most hurtful thing that somebody could probably suffer is loss, right? We can debate that. There's many things that harm us as human beings, but I think loss is one of the most massive things that I never understood whilst being incarcerated all those years. I also pay my respects to one of my followers and a man that I did time with in Maidstone and other places as well, Nicky. Nick, he's died in Thailand now. He was ill for quite some time. You might have seen him in the comments a few times, Zigzag. I was really, the build up again when I was on drugs, and I get so many messages, and some of them are so long that I can pop in and pop out, don't get back to them on that day. For quite some time, he tells Uncle Yami that, listen, yeah, I'm not quite well, but I wasn't grasping the whole situation, which is another reason why I must listen in more and see, because you miss vital things that you wish that you would have been able to say a few things before he departs from a life and a world that he had to suffer and went through himself with things like addiction and love, loss, amongst other things as well, and served his prison time, but ultimately a good man. And I was paying my respects to his family, brother, cousins, sisters. A couple of you been messaging me lately as well. I know Amanda Green was a bit torn up when she heard, but I know he thought the world of me and was very happy with my progress as well now. So special love there as well. We'll mention our boy Zigzag on one of those lives, right? Now, I was thinking this morning, I told you the other day as well, I was thinking for a few days about it, to be honest, right? They used to have this thing when I was younger called victim awareness, right? Now, I can remember as well that I asked to go on that course, because they do it in prison, victim awareness, and they did a thing outside, like the courts when you're juvenile. From way back in the day, it was always an idea, and some people got to do it, where you sit in front of the victims who have suffered at the hands of criminals like many of us, whether it be people that have been burgled, robbed, raped, to put it bluntly, lost loved ones or whatever through being murdered. So what I'm actually saying to you is, I had this feeling when I was really young that I would have liked to have sat in front of someone. I think it's a very, very good way for youngsters to see the trial and error of their ways early on, to be faced with people. Because I honestly say to you, certain things, I knew the effects when I was going through, the habitual crime thing with burgling and robbing and that kind of stuff, that you're ransacking people's houses. You don't know them, or, you're frightening people with a gun. and that kind of stuff. And it used to pass through my mind, but how they're going to feel when they come back, but you dismiss it because I was so entrenched in the lifestyle that I was living. Every time I came out of prison, it was always about the adrenaline, and I didn't have the patience or somebody in the background to guide me a little bit, to say, well, look, if you take your time and go with a slow process, get a job, think about a career, that kind of stuff. But the most important thing out of all the wrong things that we ever did in this life, I'm afraid to say it, was facing that. So some men, we see them in court quite obviously laughing at the victims' families whilst they're on trial or being sentenced for horrific murders, and having a laugh at the people that they've murdered at the expense of those families, watching a wry smile, that not accepting and what you've done is wrong, and that kind of stuff as well leaves victims very feeling bad afterwards as well. I had to suffer that one close to someone close to me lately, right? But being put in front of a victim, right, of any kind, for me, I realised in later life, might have been helpful to me. I have to be honest, because you see it, I've noticed since I've been out, right, the longer that I've been out, well, I've told you the other day, I've had major victims from major monsters inside a prison come to me, and when I'm hearing, when they're talking about how they feel and how it's left their life and that kind of stuff, it left me in absolute tatters, torn up to pieces. And I believe there was a soft side in me. I've been a little sweet boy. I've no regrets about the first crime that I did in the children's. I'm afraid to say about that. Never regret that. And I don't regret a lot of my prison behaviour either. But I do regret my crimes against innocent people that never did nothing to me. And I played a part in ruining their lives, because ultimately you're still going through people's belongings. You have that make-believe thing that just because they might be rich and might be well off more than you, that gives you the right to upset their life. But there's so many other sides to the coin. When they come home, you don't know how the victims are going to be thinking, especially if you're not known to them on the one hand, because they could be thinking, is it someone close to them? Did someone set them up? Will a person like me be back again? And they live in constant fear. So it doesn't matter about what the crime is. It matters what the crime is, but everyone to their own. For what could be a smaller one, they could lose their handbag with all their details in it, and it's a smaller charge of theft. But at the same time, you've got all their details, where they live and the front door keys. Are you coming? And you leave people in fright and fear where they've got no right to feel, because they haven't done anything to anyone. They've living law-abiding lives and have to suffer the normal human things that we have to go through during this life. The same as all of us that we did as well. They're not to blame for our upbringings and that kind of stuff. There's no way of doing it. But I did ask in the prison system as well. So there are men, that you put in front of victims if it's been, they commit murders. They say, well, you've got to do victim awareness, see how you handle it. You can act a little bit emotionally and go on like you're sorry and I see the error of my ways. It's all gab. You know what I mean? Telling them what they want to hear. It's whether you really feel the effects of when someone tells you, listen, when I lost my husband, when I lost my son, when I lost my daughter, you know what I mean? How they really feel. And it's very, very difficult for me to sit in front of someone, which is why I haven't brought the victims to the table just yet, until I was strong enough to interview, that side of things. People say, come on, Uncle Yami, the true crime, yeah, but you're good. You're helping a lot of people. But I wasn't emotionally strong enough to sit around the table and hear the pain that some people have been through at the hands of men like us, and women, I'm afraid. But I do know now inside of me that that could have been a lifesaver for me, because there's nothing worse than seeing somebody being affected, that's been affected. But what about your own victim sitting in front of you? Imagine you having to face that. You know what I mean? To say that, it caused this and it caused that and blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, we look forgiveness on certain things. Well, I do anyway, which is why I do the job that I do now. Like I said, when I do get these heartfelt, wrench messages of victims, it does leave a gaping hole in me, realising that, you're cut up, and if only I go back and say, I only would have known that bit and this bit, if that's the real how they're going to feel totally, not just a little bit, they lost a few possessions, I've gone in there, ransacked it, but there's many deeper roots to the crimes that I committed in general, that left some people that are never, ever going to get over it, I'm afraid. And for the real serious ones, of serious crimes and that, I'm afraid I begin to believe that you've ruined their whole lives forever and ever. I'm coming up to do part 1 of my Jill Dando, and we're going to go live tonight as well. Sorry about last night, the trains were playing up. Loads of love, have a great day.